Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be diving deep into stress and anxiety.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, they're definitely two things that I think we hear about all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But, it can be kind of tricky to really tease apart, what's what.
Sure.
So to help us with this, we are going to be looking at a fact sheet from the National Institute of Mental Health.
The NIMH.
Exactly.
Great source.
Yeah. So hopefully by the end of this deep dive, we will all be able to, tell our stress from our anxiety.
Yeah, and know what to do about it.
Okay, so let's start with some definitions because
Yeah.
the NIH fact sheet really, lays this out nicely.
Yeah.
So stress is defined as, basically your reaction to something external.
Right, like a deadline at work or maybe, an argument with your partner.
Yeah, planning party even.
Oh, yeah, that's stressful.
The holidays are coming up.
Right, exactly.
So that could be a stressor.
Totally.
And the fact sheet, highlights that stress is often tied to a specific event.
Right, it's usually temporary.
And it can actually be a good thing sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Think about like athletes.
Mm-hmm.
They need a little bit of stress to get them going right.
Yeah, like that pre-game jitters.
Exactly. Give you energy and focus.
That's adrenaline rush.
Yeah, but anxiety is a little bit different, right?
It is. Yeah, it's more about your internal reaction to stress.
Okay.
So it's like your body's alarm system is going off.
Even when there's nothing to be alarmed about.
Exactly, even when the danger has passed.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you've got a big exam coming up, right? Feeling a little bit nervous the night before, that's normal stress.
Yeah, butterflies in your stomach.
Exactly. But if you are constantly worried for like weeks leading up to it, you're losing sleep over it, even though you've studied really hard.
Even though you're prepared.
Right. Then that might be anxiety taking over.
Oh, so it's like out of proportion to the actual stressor.
Exactly. And that can be pretty draining.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've definitely been there.
Yeah, it's like your mind just won't shut off.
All right, even when you're trying to chill out.
Exactly. So, if stress is like a short-term burst,
Like a quick jolt.
right, anxiety is more like that persistent hum in the background.
I like that analogy.
And that hum can start to affect your physical health too.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, like, messed up sleep,
Okay.
a weakened immune system,
Wow.
even an increased risk for things like, depression.
Oh, gosh.
So that's why it's so important to understand this difference.
Right.
Because they share a lot of the same symptoms,
Yeah.
but the long-term impact can be really different.
Okay, so then let's talk about some of those symptoms.
Okay,
Because, they can look really similar.
for sure.
The fact sheet lists like, worry and uneasiness, tension, headaches, sleeplessness.
Yeah, all the fun stuff.
It's like the opposite of a spa day, right?
Right, exactly.
But so how do we tell the difference?
So it really comes down to the intensity and duration of the symptoms.
Okay.
So like if you are, stressed, those symptoms usually fade when the stressor goes away.
Like once the big presentation is over.
Exactly. You can finally relax.
Okay.
But with anxiety, they tend to hang around even when there's no immediate threat.
So they kind of linger.
Yeah, like a shadow over your day-to-day life.
That sounds heavy.
Yeah, it can be.
So then how can we tell if what we're feeling is normal stress or if it's tipping over into, I need some help territory?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Well, the NIMH fact sheet actually gives us a few helpful red flags to look out for.
Oh, good.
So one of the biggest ones is if those, stressful feelings are starting to really mess with your daily life.
Okay.
Like if you're so stressed about work that you're constantly canceling plans with friends or, you're blowing off those hobbies that you used to love.
Because you just don't have the energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's definitely a sign that something's up.
So like basically if it's interfering with your ability to, live your life.
Right. And that avoidance can actually make things worse.
Yeah.
Because it can make your world feel smaller and smaller.
Right. Like anxiety is kind of calling the shots.
Exactly. It's like you're giving it more and more power.
Even if it's making you unhappy.
Right. But before we get too deep into that,
Okay.
we're going to take a quick break
We'll be right back with more on this.
and we'll talk about some coping strategies.
Stay tuned.
And we are back.
Back to talk more about stress and anxiety.
It's interesting. We talk about stress and anxiety like they're, these abstract things, but they really do show up in our bodies.
Yeah, for sure. Like I always feel it in my stomach first.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I can actually feel the tension.
Yeah, that's super common.
Really.
Yeah, because when we're stressed or anxious, our bodies release all these hormones.
That quit.
like cortisol, adrenaline, all of those things that are designed to help us deal with threats.
Like the fight or flight response?
Exactly. But when those hormones are pumping all the time,
24/7?
yeah, it can lead to all sorts of physical symptoms. Headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, you name it.
Okay, so now I'm stressed about being stressed.
Well, hopefully not, but, it is something to pay attention to.
So what can we actually do about it?
Well, the good news is there are tons of different coping strategies out there.
Oh, good.
And the NIMH fact sheet highlights a bunch of them.
Okay.
The key is to find what works best for you.
Right. Because everyone's different.
Exactly.
Like a personalized stress toolkit.
I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the tools they recommend is journaling.
Oh, journaling.
Yeah, and it's not just about venting your frustrations.
Yeah.
Although that can be helpful too.
Sometimes you just got to get it out.
Right. But it's more about really paying attention to the patterns in your thoughts and behaviors.
Okay, so being more mindful.
Exactly.
Yeah, I used to think journaling was kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
But I've actually started doing it, and it really does help to just get all those thoughts out of my head.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like having a conversation with yourself. Yeah, and that conversation can be really revealing.
In what way?
Well, you might start to notice, certain situations or even specific thought patterns that consistently trigger your stress response.
Like, oh, every time I talk to this person.
Exactly. Or every time I think about, this upcoming event.
Right.
So once you know your triggers, you can start to develop strategies for managing them.
Okay, so it's like step 1, identify the triggers.
Exactly.
And then step 2, figure out how to deal with them.
Right. Maybe it's like setting boundaries with certain people.
Okay.
Or practicing assertive communication.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Or even just learning to say no more often.
Oh, that's so hard.
It is, but it's so important.
Yeah, because so much of our stress comes from feeling like we don't have any control.
Absolutely.
Like we're just at the mercy of, our circumstances.
Right. But by recognizing our triggers and taking steps to address them.
We can take back some of that control.
Exactly.
That's empowering.
It is. And alongside, those more proactive strategies, the fact sheet also emphasizes the importance of carving out time for relaxation and self-care.
Yes, because sometimes you just need to hit the pause button.
Absolutely.
Give yourself a break.
And there are so many different ways to do that.
Like what?
Well, the fact sheet even suggests, checking out some of those relaxation apps.
Oh, yeah.
That offer guided meditations, breathing exercises.
I love those.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Sometimes when I'm feeling anxious, just a few minutes of deep breathing
Totally.
can totally shift my mood.
It's amazing how powerful those simple techniques can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about, training your mind to focus on the present moment.
Okay, being present.
Yeah, and letting go of those worries that are always swirling around.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's exercise.
Oh, yeah, exercise.
And healthy eating.
The classics.
Right. But they're classics for a reason.
Yeah, they really work.
It's not just about, fitting into your jeans.
Although that's a nice perk.
It is a nice perk, but it's really about giving your body the tools it needs.
To cope.
To cope with stress.
Yeah.
Exercise releases endorphins.
Those feel-good chemicals.
Exactly. And a balanced diet provides, all the nutrients your brain needs.
It's like fuel for your brain.
Exactly.
So it's all connected.
It really is. Taking care of your physical health sets you up for success.
Mentally and emotionally.
Yeah. And speaking of things that are essential for our well-being, let's talk about sleep.
Sleep.
We all know how cranky we get when we're sleep deprived.
Oh, yeah.
But chronic lack of sleep can actually make you much more vulnerable to stress and anxiety.
I can see how that would happen.
It's like you're running on fumes.
Yeah.
Everything feels harder.
More overwhelming.
Right. And you're more likely to get caught in those negative thought spirals.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It can be. So that's why the fact sheet really emphasizes the importance of prioritizing sleep.
Making it a priority.
Yeah, and establishing a regular sleep routine.
Easier said than done.
It is, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's like a gift to your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got journaling, relaxation techniques, exercise, healthy eating, sleep.
It's a good start.
What else should we be adding to our stress-busting toolkit?
Well, the fact sheet also highlights the power of social connection.
Oh, yeah?
So reaching out to your support network.
Your people.
Yeah, whether it's friends, family, a support group, even a therapist.
Can make such a difference.
It really can, because sometimes just talking it out with someone who gets it can make you feel less alone.
Less isolated.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of a good hug.
All hugs are the best.
Right. Physical touch releases oxytocin.
That's the bonding hormone, right?
Exactly, which has calming effects.
Okay, I'm adding Hug It Out to my list of coping strategies.
I love it.
But speaking of therapists,
Yeah.
that's something else that the fact sheet emphasizes
Right. Seeking professional help.
when you need it.
Exactly. There's no shame in that.
No shame in taking care of your mental health.
Absolutely. In fact, it's a sign of strength and self-awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
And therapy can provide you with, a safe and supportive space.
To explore those deeper issues
Right.
that might be fueling the stress and anxiety.
Yeah, and there are so many different types of therapy available these days.
Like, what are some of the most common ones?
Oh, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
CBT, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's a really common one.
And that's all about, like, identifying and changing those negative thought patterns
Exactly.
and the behaviors that are contributing to the anxiety.
Right. It's like retraining your brain to think in a more helpful way.
Okay.
And then there's exposure therapy.
What is that?
So that can be really helpful for things like phobias
Okay.
or other types of anxiety where avoidance is a big factor.
So it's like if you're afraid of spiders,
Exactly.
you're not going to just, throw a spider on them.
No, definitely not. It's about gradual exposure
Okay.
in a safe and controlled environment.
With a therapist.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
not about, jumping into the deep end.
Yeah.
It's about taking small, manageable steps to kind of desensitize yourself to those triggers.
So they don't have so much power over you.
Exactly. And, finding the right therapist is really crucial.
Yeah. I can imagine.
It's like any relationship.
It's got to be a good fit.
It has to feel right.
Yeah.
You need to feel comfortable opening up and being vulnerable.
Yeah, for sure. So don't be afraid to, try out a few different therapists until you find one that's a good match.
Absolutely. It's an investment in your well-being.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From, journaling and relaxation techniques
Yeah.
to the power of social connection and professional help.
It's been a journey.
Yeah. Welcome back to the show.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've talked about what stress and anxiety are, how they're different, what some of those shared symptoms are, and even some tools for our, stress-busting toolkit.
Right. Lots of great strategies.
Yeah. But now it's time to get serious about those red flags.
Okay.
Those signs that it might be time to reach out for some extra help.
Right. Like when those everyday worries and anxieties have kind of crossed the line into something a bit more serious.
Exactly. And the NIMH fact sheet actually gives some really helpful pointers here.
Oh, good.
So one of the big ones is if you're constantly avoiding things because of stress or anxiety.
Right. Like those things you used to enjoy.
Exactly. So if I'm like, blowing off plans with friends or skipping my pottery class
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah, that's a sign that anxiety might be taking over.
like it's calling the shots.
Right. And, all that avoidance can make your world feel smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it's like you're letting anxiety trap you.
Exactly. And that can be really isolating.
What if it's not even about like specific events or activities?
Okay.
What if it's just that feeling of anxiety that's always there?
Oh, yeah. Like that background hum of worry
Yeah,
that never really goes away.
like even when things are okay,
Exactly. You're still feeling that knot in your stomach or that racing mind,
right?
even when you're trying to relax.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And it can make it really hard to fully engage with life.
And speaking of things that can make it hard to engage with life,
Yeah.
the fact sheet also mentions struggling with sleep because of anxiety.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That's a big one.
It can be really disruptive.
It's like a vicious cycle, right?
Absolutely. The anxiety makes it hard to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and then not sleeping just makes the anxiety worse.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so clearly this is, a situation where maybe we need to call in some reinforcements.
Right. Professional help.
Yeah. And the fact sheet talks about two main approaches,
Okay.
psychotherapy and medication.
Right. And oftentimes they're used together.
Okay, so they can work hand in hand.
Exactly. For like the best results.
I think there can be, some misconceptions about both therapy and medication,
Yeah, for sure.
but I mean, they can be really valuable tools
Absolutely.
for, managing anxiety and just improving your overall well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be kind of intimidated by the idea of therapy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are.
But once I found a therapist who I really clicked with,
Mm-hmm.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like having someone who really gets what you're going through.
Right. Like you feel heard and understood.
Exactly.
Mm.
And they can help you develop strategies that are tailored to you.
Totally.
It's not one size fits all.
Right. And the fact sheet actually mentions cognitive behavioral therapy
So
as a
just-
really common and effective type of therapy for anxiety.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's all about, identifying and challenging those negative thought patterns
Yeah.
and behaviors that are contributing to the anxiety.
So it's like retraining your brain.
Yeah, to think in a more helpful and realistic way.
And then there's exposure therapy,
Right.
which I think can be really helpful for things like phobias,
Mm.
where that avoidance is a big factor.
Yeah, so with exposure therapy, it's about, gradually and safely confronting the things that trigger your anxiety,
Okay.
with the guidance of a therapist, of course.
Okay.
So it's not about, throwing you in the deep end. Right. It's about taking those small, manageable steps.
To kind of desensitize yourself to those triggers.
Exactly.
And remember, finding the right therapist is so important.
Oh, it's crucial.
Like any relationship.
It's got to be a good fit.
Yeah.
You need to feel comfortable opening up and being vulnerable.
Right. So don't be afraid to, shop around a little bit
Yeah, try out a few different therapists.
until you find one who you really connect with.
It's an investment in your well-being.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
And I personally feel a lot more equipped to, handle stress and anxiety.
That's great to hear.
We've learned how to tell those two apart.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a whole toolkit of coping strategies.
Yeah.
And we know when and how to seek professional help.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
Yeah.
Everyone experiences stress and anxiety at some point.
It's part of being human.
It is the important thing is to have those tools and the support you need to manage it. So true. And if you are feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah.
please reach out to, a trusted friend or family member
Mm-hmm.
or a mental health professional.
There are resources available.
Yeah, don't hesitate to ask for help.
And keep practicing those self-care techniques.
Yes,
Maybe try incorporating a 5-minute mindfulness exercise into your day.
that's a good idea.
Or just taking a few minutes to jot down your thoughts in a journal.
Yeah. Even small things can make a big difference.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into stress and anxiety.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you feel a little bit more empowered to, navigate these things with confidence and resilience.
And remember, you've got this.
You got this. Until next time, take care. Bye, everyone.